Greater Manchester Police has reopened its formal investigation into claims that Labour Deputy Leader Angela Rayner may have broken electoral law. The claim is that Rayner may have registered a home she did not live in as her place of residence.
Well, the new probe comes after reassessment of the information provided to us. That's according to the police.
Yes, the Labour Party says Angela Rayner welcomes the chance to set out the facts with the police, but that's a very different attitude to the way in which Angela Rayner herself responded to Boris Johnson, remember that, being placed under police investigation.
Yes, in January 2022, Angela Rayner called for the then Prime Minister Boris Johnson to resign, simply due to the fact that he was under investigation, not the outcome of any investigation.
There she is, Boris Johnson's Downing Street. Oh, it's gone now. I was just going to read out the tweet, but essentially, yes, smacks of a touch of hypocrisy, perhaps. Shall we head to Westminster and speak with GB News political editor Christopher Hope to bring us the detail on this? Christopher, this will be a bit of a shock to the system for the Labour leadership here. Keir Starmer, he wants to talk about the nuclear deterrent, he wants to talk about defence spending, but this issue with Angela Rayner, now a formal police investigation.
Yes, morning, Tom, morning, Emily. That's totally right. The idea had been to have Sir Keir Starmer at Barrow in Furness today, committing the Labour Party to 2.5% of GDP when the economic circumstances allow, with an interview with the Daily Mail of all places, making clear that Labour backs a nuclear deterrent. Instead, GB News and other outlets are focusing on Angela Rayner, his deputy, and this police investigation announced within the past hour by Greater Manchester Police into whether it centres really on whether she was correctly registered at this house, the second home she had in this council house that she had in Manchester, or the house around the corner where her husband lived. Of course, she's been very clear that she's followed all the correct laws, and the tax was paid when she sold it. No capital gain tax was due, we understand. But it's very, very embarrassing. Labour had been hoping this idea would go away. This whole pressure from, starting with a book from Lord Ashcroft, the former Tory donor, serialised by the Mail on Sunday, pressure by James Daly, a local Tory MP, concerned about it, Conservative supporting, right-wing newspapers investigating it. Labour's been trying to push it away, almost attack the messenger, not go after what was said. We've heard, haven't we, from Labour today saying they got full support in Angela Rayner. Keir Starmer wouldn't say he had 100 support in her yesterday, just full support. But they're trying to hope that it would just go away, but it hasn't gone away. And I think it's now escalating into a real problem for the Labour Party. They will now not be able to comment on it because it's a police investigation, but I think this will overshadow the final weeks in the run-in to a very difficult few weeks would have been for the Tory party, and now it's back on Labour.
Yes, it is interesting, of course, because we have seen a great number of police investigations now that, of course, there were police investigations into Boris Johnson, into Rishi Sunak, into Keir Starmer, and now into Angela Rayner. It's hard-pressed to find a senior politician in the land who hasn't had a police investigation into them. But, of course, investigations can go either way. Back when Keir Starmer was under investigation due to the beers that he had during lockdown, he said that they were essential for work, of course. But during that investigation, Sir Keir Starmer said that if the police find against him and his essential beers, he would resign. Angela Rayner's not saying anything like that today.
Yeah, I forgot all about the essential beers, Tom. That's right. Yes, that was, of course, during lockdown when you weren't allowed to gather for a social occasion. Gosh, what a different world that was. Yeah, totally. I mean, in a sense, I think, there was a moment at which if Angela Rayner could have said, look, I moved out, I was a blended family, I just got married. There's a moment to explain it away, and that is fast disappearing. I mean, with these situations when Rishi Sunak was spotted not wearing a seatbelt in the back of a car, he apologised, paid a fine. But the longer these things go on, if there's a problem, then you've got to make sure that your facts are right. And that's where Angela Rayner is. Now, she has said she is innocent, of course. She says she welcomes the chance to set the record out the facts with the police. And we remain completely confident that's the party that Angela has complied with the rules at all times, and it's now appropriate to let the police do its role, do its work. Of course, that's right, but if it gets to the point where wrongdoing is to have found, there will be question marks about why she couldn't come clean at the beginning, and indeed why she allowed other senior colleagues in the Labour team, particularly Sir Keir Starmer, support her for so long. Sir Keir Starmer, of course, has said he will not look at the legal advice upon which Angela Rayner's defence is resting. Some would say that is interesting, given he's a KC, one of the most senior barristers in the country, were he barrister, not Labour leader, and he's not wanting to see the evidence put forward. Rachel Reeves told GB News on Tuesday, the Shadow Chancellor, she also backs Angela Rayner and doesn't need to see the advice or the financial advice on whether capital gains tax were due. So we are going towards a point when this will be settled. The police will decide either way whether there's a problem here. The police, of course, are looking at the issue of whether she had or had not misled the electoral register. The fine for that is £1,000, which could be very embarrassing for her. Separate to that, there's the issue of whether any capital gain tax was due on the sale of a second home, and she says there wasn't any due.
Interesting. Thank you very much indeed. Christopher Hope, our political editor, live from Westminster, bringing us up to speed on everything Angela Rayner. Yes, it remains curious, doesn't it, that Keir Starmer hasn't asked to have a look at the tax advice himself.
It's such a different way to the way in which he responded to the police investigation he found himself under, where he just said, you know what, if they find against me, I'll resign.
Yeah. That's true.
That was a bold and courageous political move. And actually, to some extent, that was the point at which people started to say, this guy's a serious person. This is a bold and courageous and far from timid move. That started to change perceptions about Keir Starmer, I think.
Yeah, I think you might be right on that one. Yes, lots of people did heap praise upon the Labour leader for that, for saying, you know what, if I'm proven to have done something criminal, I will simply resign. Whereas a Labour spokesperson this time around, Angela welcomes the chance to set out the facts with the police. We remain completely confident that Angela has complied with the rules at all times. So there you go. That is the Labour response as it stands.
But of course,